I'm Aaron Fulkerson. I'm from MindTouch. And MindTouch, we do stuff with self-service as you might expect, since this is about self-service. However, if you're interested in hearing like a commercial about MindTouch, then this is going to be really boring for you because that's not what we're talking about. So everything I'm going to talk about is applicable to your business today, with or without MindTouch. So keep that in mind. And what we're talking about is something that is actually a very disruptive technique for approaching your customer experience with content. Now, this particular technique has been employed by unicorn software companies for, I think the first one we worked with was ExactTarget, and that started in 2009. Yeah, 2010, I think, 2009 or 2010. But most of the unicorns use this as a kind of growth hacking technique to drive customer success as well as really increase their customer acquisition. And I say unicorns, but there's also increasingly dinosaurs like Whirlpool, ADP I'd consider a dinosaur, and more mature companies, including a 200-year-old American company called Remington that's using this technique as well. And think of it as kind of a content-centric customer experience or approach to delivering self-service that drives the customer experience. So let me rewind for a minute and say that when we set out to do MindTouch, we didn't know about this either. We really didn't. And we set out to solve a totally different problem. We thought about the world like this. We were like, well, the problem is when you build a product, there's over time skill that people develop with that product. And getting them from this experience where it takes a long time to become kind of okay to one like this where you're kicking ass, right? That's a ninja. So you're a ninja with the product is something that we were really passionate about at MindTouch in the early days, and this is what we set out to solve for. We weren't talking about like self-service, customer success, blah, blah, blah. No, we were talking about this, new Beastie Ninjas. This literally is the 2 slides that we started MindTouch from. I actually stole this from this amazing woman named Kathy Sierra, whom, if you don't know Kathy Sierra, you should look her up. She's awesome. So that ninja constitutes somebody who is successful with your product, right? So that's success. It also means that they're a brand promoter, right? So this was the idea. This was like the transitive property of, hey, we want to make them into experts with the product. We were product people, so we cared mostly about, not that they were promoting the product. We weren't thinking about that. We were caring about, well, that they understand how awesome our product is, like most product people, right? I built this beautiful thing. We want everybody to understand how beautiful it is. So this then translated to, no, this actually, holy crap, there's this whole net promoter thing. And then since we're a subscription-based business, wow, this actually has an impact on people's renewals and upsells. So then it kind of evolved from this idea around what we'd originally thought of as driving customer success back in early mid-2000, I guess 2007 or so, to no, this is self-service customer experience. It's very focused on content that all companies are already producing. And this is like the product help, the product documentation stuff, the customer support information that can be used to create an engagement channel with your customers so that they become experts on your product. And I mentioned at the beginning of this that this is largely driven out of the customer success function, right? So I put it in quote success because it wasn't always the case that people called themselves success. They might have been training or onboarding or e-learning or different titles over the years, but it's really the person who's responsible for the customer success really drives this effort within organizations, whether it's Docker, Zenefits, Sprinkler. They're thinking of it. But the challenge with this is if all of your content looks like this, where it's file-based or maybe it's pre-mobile, right? Most of it's pre-internet, pre-mobile. It's like maybe it's a knowledge base or maybe it's a bunch of files that we throw around internally or Google Docs or it's not very effective. And the interesting thing about this is that the content that companies produce when it comes to sales and marketing is really good. It's really good. It's glossy. It's really optimized for reaching successful outcomes. We sold them. But then if you look at it post-sale experience, it's really crappy. So all of the content that we're delivering to our customers post-sale experience, maybe it's content is good, but the formats we're using and the systems that we're using to deliver it to them, it hasn't been changed since sometimes before the internet. PDFs have been around since before the internet. And a lot of this stuff's floating around in PDFs, user manuals, or knowledge bases, or maybe they're internal documents, right? So it's weird because, go back to this slide, all of our sales and marketing information, like you go buy a camera, and all of the marketing information is really emotional and really sexy, and it really gets you engaged. Then you buy the box, and it's glossy, and it's pretty, and then you open it up, and there's that new electronic smell. And you unpack it, and then you take out the device, and there's a little black and white manual that needs you need a magnifying glass to read, and it's in 20 languages. And you're like, man, I'm really excited about my Fitbit or my camera, but how do I use it? How do I become a ninja with it? I'm excited about it, but there's no way for me to actually connect with it. How do I integrate it with what are the apps I can integrate with? And that's what really sucks, is that post-sale experience. All the content is this really crappy stuff. So meanwhile, we know that brands that are investing in helping buyers to understand what the post-sale experience are really disrupting the market. Whether it's Apple or Tesla, connecting with the buyer so that they put on the suit coat, like when you go to Nordstrom's or BCBG or whatever, my wife's favorite store, put on the clothes, and suddenly then you have this connection with it, and you don't want to give it up. So that's what Apple knows, but not everybody can be Apple, right? Not everybody can afford to roll out retail stores. So how do you scale this up? Meanwhile, another significant force is subscription economy, right? The phrase that Teen over at Zora coined around the idea that it's a subscription-based model that businesses are going to employ. And I'm sure if you guys are customer success manager, you probably are all software companies. You're probably all SaaS, right? So you guys know what subscriptions are. Well, customer success, you'll find those titles in software companies today, but you see GE, retail, fashion, TUI Travel Group, the largest travel conglomerate on the planet, rolling out subscription-based products. Customer success is going to infect every single industry because all industries are adopting subscription-based models. And the interesting thing about subscription-based models is everybody goes, oh, wow, subscription-based software companies have higher valuations. Do you guys know why? Anybody shout out why? Predictability. Yeah, that's a side effect. Renewable revenue, that's a side effect. The reason why subscription-based businesses have higher valuations is because they understand their customers. They have real connection and understanding with their customers. As a result, they have predictability. As a result, they have renewable revenue. But the reason why SaaS software companies have higher valuations and subscription-based companies have higher valuations and kill it and outperform is because they actually understand their customers. If they didn't, they wouldn't renew. If they didn't, it wouldn't be predictable revenue. So a couple of forces at play here. Subscription-based models, everybody's adopting this. Meanwhile, we know that customers prefer self-service, right? This is Forrester. And it didn't take Forrester. I didn't need Forrester to tell me that customers prefer self-service. I think we all know that we don't want to send in an email. We don't want to pick up the phone. We just want to get the right information through some very small micro interaction. I don't want to read a 500-page PDF. I don't want to pull out a printed user manual and read it. I want a micro interaction. I want to find the right information, and I want to find it quickly. However, what I hear often is, great, then we can add a search box to the website, right? So that people will add a federated search. We've got all these tools and files floating around, so let's add a search box. And we'll index it all. And does that solve the problem, though, right? Well, since 90% of the people are going to Google first, they're not going to your website, right? They're going to Google, they're running a search on Google long before they ever find your website. This is I'm doing buyer education. When I have a problem with a product, the first thing I do is I pull out my mobile phone and I run a Google search. And then maybe I end up on a page where I have to file a support ticket. Maybe I end up on a web page where I have a search box and I search, and then I'm returned a PDF. So the federated search thing isn't solving the problem. So we know that we've got to solve it from Google. And the challenge with Google is that, again, this content that you're producing inside your organization that helps people after they purchase is in these file formats and these legacy systems that isn't conducive to ranking highly on Google. And if it does show up on Google or the website, then it's a PDF, and we end up just emailing or calling in because we're frustrated with that whole experience. And we're aggravated. In fact, we're so aggravated that if we have to go through a user-assisted support channel, we know through CEB here, and Harvard Business Review put out some research that what happens is the individual that has to go through a user-assisted channel is 4 times more likely to leave that interaction disloyal than loyal. So all of this is kind of confounding the customer who's trying to just get simple interactions related to the product or service. What about the buyer? How does this impact the buyer? Well, here's another stat for you all. This is from, again, CEB. 60% of buyers have already made up their mind before they ever talk to the vendor. So this means that buyers are going online to do online education. You guys are all mostly software companies, right? So I can tell you, you guys all know this firsthand. When you go to buy marketing automation, or you go to buy whatever, CRM, you go online to do research. You already make up your mind before you ever talk to that vendor. And then, because you want to do your diligence and squeeze down the price, you talk to multiple vendors, but you've already made up your mind on who you're going to buy before you ever talk to them. So it's unlikely you're going to change your mind, but it's possible. So all of this content that companies are producing that's specific to their products and services, that's useful to the customers, is incredibly important to the buyers as well. So important, in fact, that, guess what? 94% of buyers are self-educating online. Evidently, there's 6% of the population that doesn't have the internet. 92% of buyers rely on, guess what? Search engines. I don't know what the other 8% are using. Maybe they're, I don't know. But this is kind of obvious stats here. And here's one that is not so obvious. 72% of buyers will not even engage vendors that don't make available this content. Which makes sense. If I don't understand what like my Fitbit integrates with, or how my marketing automation system or business intelligence system is going to work after I make the purchase, or what the experience is going to be like, I'm going to go to the vendors that do put this information out there. Actually, this is funny. My dad told me just a couple of months ago, I've been doing this Mind Touch thing for a while. My dad called me and said, I understand what you do now. I'm like, wow, it's been a while, but you finally figured it out. Okay, cool. What made you what helped you figure it out? He said, I was buying running boards for my truck. And I was online doing research to figure out how the running boards would fit on my truck, because I'm going to install them. Is it 4 bolts? Is it 5 bolts? And I spent most of my afternoon on Saturday trying to find the information, and it just kept routing me to the checkout experience to make the purchase. I finally gave up and said, screw it. So, of course, another key thing that's a trend here, guys, is that mobile's a reality. And again, it goes back to that lady from the 1920s with the PDFs and books. This content doesn't rank highly, and it's not going to load on a mobile phone. In fact, Google's announced that in June, they're going to rank mobile responsive content even higher than they already did with their last algorithm update, which was a couple months ago. For Mind Touch, we do 1 trillion transactions a month. We serve many millions of human beings a month on our cloud infrastructure, and our mobile traffic went up by 900%. It was just over 900% last year alone. But according to Google, 2015, right there, that stat is shocking. This was in search engine land. It was a direct quote from Google. So more Google searches take place on mobile devices than on a computer, right, in the top 10. So all of the content that you guys are producing as part of your customer success practice, we know is incredibly valuable to the buyers that are educating themselves, helps them frame around your product. We know it's incredibly valuable to your customers. We know that they're going to Google. We know that they're using mobile phones predominantly. So can we add a search box to the website now, right? This is such a strange thing. It'll feel really good. Like that time we launched the community. It's like when we pee in our pants in the winter, it's warm at first. So it feels good. But it's really not solving the problem. In fact, it's just covering up the problem. And this is the reality when you add your search box, right? Maybe you find the right information, but it's not in the format that the customer is going to be able to engage with. And it's also not in a format that allows you to get intelligence back from them. Just with off-the-shelf Google Analytics, if you organize your content correctly, you can inform everything from the content you should be producing to product strategy, marketing strategy, sales execution. With the content you guys are making in customer success, if you organize it in a way effectively, you can tell exactly what the top 5 pieces of, what are the topics, the individual, not the PDF files, but the individual topics that get me to renew a customer. What's the content map that helps me to upsell a customer? Do you guys know what content your top customers are consuming about your product that gets them to buy more from you? That gets them to become a ninja on your products and promote your brand? You should. It's not that hard. So why is this all so broken? Why is it so hard? Well, this is the reality. Everybody takes an employee-first approach, not a customer-first approach, an employee-first approach. Everybody's working in their own little departmental silo. They're throwing around Google Docs, or maybe they've got an internal wiki or something. And what it gives us is this experience with these pre-mobile knowledge bases, some FAQs over here, some training manuals over there. Engineering's hard coding some help system into the web application. There's no analytics on any of it. And you're serving the employees, but it's the old inmates running the asylum where they're putting Band-Aids while they're bleeding out. And what you should be thinking about is a customer-first approach. Take the content, organize it in a way that's web-based, mobile responsive. It's optimized for the customer who's going to be coming in from search engines, and then organize it in a way that you can layer it across the entire customer journey, whether it's user-assisted channels, and do it in a way that allows you to deliver content that becomes a central nervous system of your customer experience. So when they're consuming content, you can understand and report on the content that you should deliver to the customer struggling. What are your best customers consuming? What did they access that made them experts? Deliver that to the ones that are struggling. Maybe we can call it a web, right? This is the internet. This isn't like new, but everybody's peddling these crappy solutions from failed internet search engines that were deployed internally at businesses because they couldn't compete against Google back in 1999. Or these old file formats from Adobe like PDFs and Word docs. It's ridiculous. So if you deliver this correctly, I kid you not, 2 to 3x increase in site traffic with content you're already producing internally. And the only thing that's different is formatting it in a way that's effective for the search engines. 2 to 3x. So let's put it into perspective. You run a toy store. I come into your toy store and say, give me all of your user manuals, and I'm going to double the foot traffic into your store. This is Avalara, Zenefits, Docker, ExactTarget, Sprinkler. Double the foot traffic into your store. And then when you look at this analytics, just free Google Web Analytics, you'll see that they spend 5 to 8 times more time on site. And then you can build a content map. You know exactly what it is that you need to upsell with, inform marketing, inform your sales execution. Hey, do you guys know what content you should deliver by stage in your account during your sales cycle? You should. And of course, then you can streamline your onboarding process. And if you deliver it in a way where it's topic-based micro content, layer it into the application so you can get analytics back from the application from the same content repo. And of course, improve your customer success, right? What is the content map that we need to deliver by account stage? And you can do this all from content that you're already producing within your customer success team, principally your customer success team. Maybe you go talk to the technical writers over in engineering that have a feature backlog and they're publishing. I don't know if they're reading it or not. So all from content you've already created, but you think about differently because you think about the customer first. I'm told that Self-Service Matters is a place that you can ask us additional questions if you guys have any. And if there's any questions, I'd love to field some from you.